Lieutenant Crivitz man and a Green Bay woman are facing several felony charges after allegedly attacking a woman last month. Dwayne DeGrief of Crivitz and Aurelie Lozano Garcia of Green Bay are faced with felony mayhem and aggravated battery charges, as well as several other felony and misdemeanor counts. According to the criminal complaint, DeGrief was living with the victim and his girlfriend, Lorenzo Garcia, in November when an argument over a missing debit card escalated. The victim says Lozano Garcia tried to assault her with a butane torch. When DeGrief entered the room, he allegedly headbutted the victim and then held her down while Lozano Garcia burned the victim with the torch. DeGrief and Lozano Garcia were taken into custody earlier this month in Marinette County. Both denied the victim's account of the events. DeGrief is being held on a $15,000 signed cash bond. Lozano Garcia on a $25,000 signed cash bond. DeGrief is scheduled to appear in court next week. Lozano Garcia has an appearance scheduled for February 1st.